Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast. And welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
I have one from my days managing a hotel. Managed a hotel a couple years back. Housekeepers are primarily Mexican ladies, superstitions and all. They all have stories about the fourth floor of a hotel and a woman who wanders the halls. Super busy one day, short-handed to begin with, and two ladies call out. 85 checkouts out of 126 rooms. 85 people checking in. Put off regular manager work and help clean rooms. The housekeeper assigned to the fourth floor called out, "I take it." First few rooms are okay messy because of frat boys, but nothing too bad. Get to room 423. It is an ADA Americans with Disabilities Act room. Gotta take extra steps in cleaning to avoid allergens and such. Walk in and it is freezing. HVAC set at 78. Weird. Maybe they turned it up before they left. The room feels really stuffy aside from being cold. Clean the room. Get a call on walkie, ADA customer needs room. Too early for regular check-in, not even noon yet. Tell them to give me 5 minutes. Clear room and move on to next. See the customer wheel on down to room as I am going into my next one. Hear door open and close. Seconds later hear, "Excuse me." See the customer at my door. The customer says there was someone in his room. What the fuck? No, there is not. Go check. The room is completely trashed. Chairs knocked over. Mattress leaning against wall, sheets and pillows thrown about. TV on static, loud. But sure enough, nobody else was there. Nope. Have customer wait in the lobby for another room. Get keylogger machine, check logs. My key was last before the customer. Nobody else was there. Put the room out of service for maintenance. Do not re-clean it. Can't explain it. Hotel was only 3 years old at that point, no deaths or anything. Didn't make sense. But the fourth floor made me really uneasy every day after that. Other stuff happened after that point on other shifts I worked, but that was the most extreme thing. Other employees didn't believe me and thought I made a mistake about room numbers, but housekeepers believed it though.
How common are deaths in hotels? Do hotels have any duty to disclose if someone has died in a room you've rented?
Hotel guy back again. In my personal experience, it's infrequent, but it really depends on what area the hotel is in. Mine was in a medical center, so we had people coming in for procedures and stuff. We had a couple of non-fatal heart attacks, a domestic violence case, and once, about a month before I left, a woman came in and checked out a room and took a bunch of pills and downed a bottle of wine in a self-termination attempt. She was unsuccessful. Stories from colleagues who worked in bad parts of town would talk about walking in on self-terminations, calling police because of gunshots in the rooms and armed robberies like they were normal occurrences. Some hotels have really large atriums overlooking the lobby in the hotel, and they get jumpers often enough to have nets in place to catch people. Walking in on a self-termination was always my biggest fear. There's no law that states we have to disclose any deaths in the building to the public. I'm sure there's a way for people to find out if they wanted, but we have no obligation. We had one guy who would come in once or twice a month for a couple nights at a time. Kind of an awkward guy, heavy set, overly friendly when in conversation, but always seemed like he was restraining himself. Never specific about why he was staying. He just kinda would rub you the wrong way. The housekeepers would complain about having to clean his room all the time because they said he would leave a really big mess, but they wouldn't go into detail about it. Once I got kinda frustrated about them complaining, so I had one of them show me. We walk into the bathroom and there is blood all over the shower wall and floor and on the bed sheets and towels. The girl said it's like that every time he stays. He was a single traveler, never had any visitors. So I didn't think he was a serial killer or anything else. Nobody. I didn't ask him about it, but I assumed it was some sort of medical condition. No idea what it actually was, though.
I would normally Greentext this, but I'm on my phone, so I'll just have to do it newbie ways. My dad used to work in the Royal Australian Air Force about 15 or so years ago. In that time, we would get moved around the country a lot for his work, staying at various overnight hotels, etc. My mum says I was about 3 years old at the time, and also said she had a horrible feeling about staying at this particular hotel. But due to it being another 200 to 300 kilometers until the next hotel, we had to stay at this one. The unit we stayed in had 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. All doors had high-set doorknobs and higher-set windows with fly-wire mesh. Obviously, being 3 years old, I don't have any recollection of the events following. I'm going off what my mum and dad have told me. Neither of them can explain how. After putting me to bed around 7 p.m., my parents say that up until 1 a.m., the night was uneventful. No noises or anything. My mum says that it was actually disturbing how silent everything was, especially seeing as how close we were situated to the main roads. Around 1 a.m., both my parents woke to an incredibly loud groaning noise coming from the front door. My dad ran to the front door unlocked and swung it open only to find me standing there, fully clothed, shoes and all. My mum was crying. She grabbed me and pulled me inside. They checked all the windows and double-checked the door locks. There was no possible way for me to get out by myself. When they finally asked me how I got out, apparently I rambled on about a man with no arms who fell from the window and would groan to open doors. Apparently, he told me to help him find his arms.
I worked the night shift at an old hotel that had burned down and been rebuilt. 10 people died and weird stuff would happen all the time. Alone all night in that lobby, no security guards. And if something happened, I was shit out of luck because the owners and managers did not appreciate calls during my hours. Everything was kind of nerve-wracking because I had to go outside in the dead of night whenever a guest wanted something. Or worse, in some creep's room. But there were some harder to explain things. I posted about it here and even posted some eerie pictures, but no one had anything substantial to say, so I'll post some abridged things. Anyway, during my first week working there, the power seemed to go out and all the smoke alarms in the lobby area and in some of the rooms went off. I was scared shitless, but I still had to go deactivate everything for the guests. All the affected rooms were empty, but the guests in the surrounding rooms could still hear. It took 3 hours for the power to come back on, and we had to compensate a lot of guests. The hotel across the street, only thing around for a few miles, didn't have any power trouble. There would be burning and smoke smells all the time. It could get almost suffocating. Not cigarette smoke either. One guest called to complain that the people under or next to her must be burning things in their room. Naturally, there was no one in any surrounding rooms, but I did have to go turn the smoke alarm in the room below her off a couple hours later. I would see tall, dark figures in doorways often, almost always out of the corner of my eye, but I saw one dead on once. It was definitely humanoid, but mostly featureless. It looked sort of like what /X/ calls shadow people and filled me with a horrible, consuming feeling of dread, and I was paralyzed, but eventually it disappeared quite suddenly. I stole into an empty room because it was a slow night and stayed there until daylight. I would sometimes sleep on the job because of the hours and lack of cameras. Owner was a stereotypical cheap Indian. And eventually I started having nightmares about burning buildings. Even sometimes when I'd go home and sleep, I'd have them. I'd always die in these dreams, but they'd continue for a while afterward and didn't make any sense, but were always very similar. Probably the weirdest thing, though not necessarily the scariest, were some phone calls I got on the day before, of and after the anniversary of the building burning down. It sounds corny as hell, but the first night I answered, and this man with a deep voice started trying to reserve a room, but seemed confused by all the questions I was asking him, and got more and more agitated and eventually started yelling incoherently at me and hung up. The day of, every time I answered the phone, I would hear screaming and nothing else. I could be schizophrenic or something because my manager was pissed at me because apparently a couple of guests tried to contact me and couldn't get through to the front desk. I'd answered the phones every time despite being afraid to, and got 7 calls that night, but obviously none were the guests, and the guests said that no one even picked up. The next day, that man called again and said he was watching me and told me some of the things I'd been doing that night. Granted, they were somewhat given chores, but it was creepy nonetheless. And asked how to contact my manager, and I told him I would contact the police if he called again. He laughed and said he'd see me later, but thankfully it was my last week of work. I'd given in my 2 weeks' notice for unrelated reasons. My boss was really upset when I had to leave and confessed that the job was impossible to fill, and I'd kept it longer than anyone else. Apparently, they still haven't permanently filled it.
I work night shifts in hotels and have been for a while. Be at the front desk checking the room keys on the wall to see which rooms still had to come in. Key hung up equals guest is out. Only 2 keys, 104 and 110. 104 not booked, empty room. Start getting calls from several rooms about someone fucking around and knocking on doors. Check all floors, nobody's around. Go inside the office and check security cameras, nobody anywhere. Phone rings, 104 comes up on display. LOL what? Pick up, nobody talks, only hear static. Grab the master key and go check the room. Go inside, phone unhooked. The door slams behind me. Fuck this .mp3 JPEG. Run back downstairs and sit at the front desk all night. Same guy. Before I tell this story, I have to explain how the hotel was built. It's an old 1900s building, which used to be high-class housing. The building was bought in the 1920s by the original owner and converted into a hotel. So we actually have more than one entrance to the hotel. We have the main entrance on the ground floor, and a small door on the second floor hidden behind a curtain in the breakfast area, which leads to the old apartment's stairway. The door on the second floor is always locked, and only the owner has the keys. Working extra shifts because the regular night guy quit. They found him reading the Bible one morning, and he just said he was quitting and walked out. Checking keys as usual, we only had 4 rooms occupied that night. Almost all of them were hanging on the wall. Every guest is already in their room. I'm gonna sleep tonight. WMA. It was a Thursday, so all the dirty laundry had to be brought down to the basement. Go upstairs and start bringing laundry bags like a boss. Pass by the door on the second floor and hear a very loud scratch on the other side. Hold my nopes, think someone might have accidentally touched it. On the very last floor there was an apartment still in use. Go on about my business. Later be half asleep on the couch in the lobby. Get woken up by very loud scratches coming from upstairs. Run into the office and check the security camera. The door on the second floor is wide open and the curtain is on the floor. WTF.JPEG. Grab a bat and run upstairs. The door is only a bit cracked open. Slowly walk towards it, and just as I reach out for the doorknob, it slams. No to the fucking nope. Lose all the nopes out my ass as I run back to the office and lock the door behind me.
I work in a big hotel. Winter. Occupancy is very low, mostly business travelers. 1 wing closed, all rooms over there empty. Doing nightly cleaning tasks, no one around. Look down the hall at the empty wing. Fire door, held open by electromagnets, swings closed. Child looks through the window on the door. What? Walk down there? Open the fire door? Has to remain open unless fire occurs. No one there. Look up and down stairs, down other floors. Listen for kids or footsteps. Nothing. Think nothing of it. Ask the front desk if anyone has come looking for a kid. say she is hiding in the south wing. The front desk says there are no children staying currently. Thinks I am trying to spook her. See the little girl in the hall again later that night. Wave. She does not wave back. She enters a locked room without using a key. Radio front desk. See if the room is occupied. Nope. Call maintenance. See if he worked in there that day and maybe left the door ajar. Nope. Open the door. Empty room. 3rd floor. No other exit. Final destination. Nope. Never happened again. Same hotel. Chilling in housekeeping. Answer the phone. This is housekeeping. How can I help you? Hear staticky screaming. Hello. Can I help you? Shriek, 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 sob. Do you need help, ma'am? A throaty voice says, help me. Mumbles, quietly hangs up. God damn. Inform the front desk that someone is flipping out and making crank calls from one of the rooms. They say they have been getting those calls every 15 minutes since so-and-so came on duty up there. They assigned a sweet older lady to answer the phone. Calls continue all evening, but she hears nothing. The other desk clerk goes home early. Same hotel. Middle of a really shitty winter. Half of town loses power for a couple days. Hotel included. Get a flashlight, check on guests with maintenance and security. Go to the south wing. Pitch black without light, really quiet, smells moldy. Check on snooty rich people in suite, they whine. Decide to check other floors on the south wing. Go to the corner of the 3rd floor. Someone is sitting in the chair at the end of the hallway beside the stairs, in the dark. Are you okay? I will bring my light down there. They get up, enter the stairwell. Wait, that is dangerous. I will be right there. Someone shoves me from behind so hard I stumble and fall down against the wall. Hear a snarl. Shine light around. Nothing is there. Maintenance man comes up the stairs. The other guy just went down, shining light at me. LOL anon, what are you doing? Ask if he saw the guy who just went down the stairs. What guy? Ghosts are fucking annoying.
I work night audit at a hotel. I was in the back doing paperwork last night. I heard a commotion by the computer area. I stuck my head out and saw 2 guys on the ground with their backs to me, one on top of the other. I closed the door and called the cops. Cops were here 2 seconds later. Basically, one drunk guy got beat up. 16 stitches, half on one side of his head, half on the other with a boot print. I went over the security video with a cop, but we don't have a camera watching that part of the hotel. Why? Cheap owner. But I can see who comes and goes through the exits. The aggressor took off, cops looking for him. EMS puts the guy in the recovery position. Drunk friends come back from the bar behind us and find the cops and EMS. Drunk wife crying I brought her tissues. Drunk friend of the guy is arguing with me because I don't know. He keeps repeating, "You have cameras on this spot." I say, "I'm working on it with the police." I spent the night cleaning up PIC-related. I finished up my shift and sent my boss an email with the details of what happened. The boss calls me this morning, is supportive, but says that the wife says she called the cops and I was nowhere to be found. I'm livid, but I tell my boss that's ridiculous. I was with the cops when they came back from the bar. I also mention you can see me on the security footage the entire time and on the phone, then a second later a cop arrives. The boss says, "I know, I just had to ask. It's not like you're gonna stand there as some guy is getting beat up." The boss mentions if I ever feel unsafe to let him know. I say I understand and thanks. A couple things though.
I work in the hotel industry, and for those who didn't know, we deal with a surprisingly amount of deaths. I've dealt with 2 personally. First, working night audit, in the office behind reception watching TV. About 2 p.m., I hear a big thud outside, like something heavy hitting the pavement. Walk out of the office and hear a car screech. Look outside and see the body of a woman lying on the road. Realizing someone had jumped and called the police, Find out a couple of days after it was a self-termination. Second, and more intense. Night audit again. Received a call at about midnight from a guest. The guest is frantic, saying her husband fell off the balcony. Go up to the room to talk to her. Open the door. She grabs me and brings me to the balcony. Look down, and sure enough, there's a body laying on the pool deck. Go back down to the foyer, call the police, and go out to the pool deck. See the body, but notice something peculiar. There's no head. What the fuck.jpg? Then notice the body is right next to the pool deck railing, and see blood splattered over the railing. Take a look over the railing and see a head laying on the roof of the building next to us. Proceed to evacuate my stomach as the police walk out onto the pool deck. Find out the husband was drunk and was showing off on the balcony before losing his grip and falling to his death. This was 4 years ago, and there's still a slight indentation on the poolside railing where he was decapitated.
It's funny how easy our heads come off, relatively speaking. Something unusual really did happen at the brain size explosion point of our development. Not necessarily alien involvement. It could have been the discovery of cooking allowing our brain pan to be unbound by our jaw muscles, but for some reason our heads became quite disproportionately large and fragile.
I'm a night auditor concierge at a hotel, so I usually work between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. Anyway, usually all I really deal with is drunk guests and homeless knocking on the lobby doors. I did work a shift though where we had a jumper who landed right outside the lobby, but self-terminations aren't as uncommon in hotels as you'd think. There was one incident that was somewhat spoopy, however. Be at the front desk doing things. Only me and the cleaner were working that night. About 2 in the morning, all elevators open up on the lobby floor. There are 3 in the hotel. Doors remain open for a couple of minutes. Don't think much of it because the elevators have always been dodgy. End up closing and radio the cleaner to ask if elevators have been acting up. Replies back saying they all opened again on the level he's vacuuming. Decide to reset the lifts. There's a manual override that brings each lift down to the basement if they act up. Watch on the security camera as the lifts reset at the basement and the doors open. See a person walk out of lift 1 and head into the guest toilets. Hear the toilet door open. There are stairs leading from the foyer down to the basement and guest toilets. Check out the toilets. No one's in there. Hear lifts kick into action. Walk up to reception and find that the lifts have been reactivated. Log a report in the incident journal and radio the cleaner to get down to reception because strange shit is happening. Only the night audit, me, has a key to reset and activate the lifts. There is no other way out of the toilets other than the one door, and the lobby doors are all locked at night. Maintenance picked up the report and called the elevator servicing company to check for any problems, which is usual protocol if the elevators act up. They arrived in the afternoon and checked the elevator manifesto, which automatically logs the elevator's actions. I noticed the time from when they opened up in the lobby to the time they reactivated. While I was checking the bathroom, it had inoperable logged, which only happened if there's no power going to the lifts. Showed the general manager the security footage of the guy who went into the toilets and we could not figure out who he was. Definitely not one of the residents, and it wasn't a guest, as each door in the hotel has an electronic lock that records each time the door is opened or closed, and alas, log shows no action that night. Elevators were fully serviced a few days later and the security tape was filed. I have no idea what the hell happened that night, and nothing's really happened since.
Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
I used to be one of 2 managers at a little old-school hotel. It was made out of a really nice old house, maybe more along the lines of a mansion. Anyway, this girl and I just did everything at this point. The hotel was about to close down in a few days. We'd put cameras around the place because we kept hearing things. Honestly, I was just having a nice laugh before I left the place. Just fucking with her. Half because I was attracted to her and wanted an excuse to have her think of me as her protector, and half because I was sort of pissed she hadn't gone for me. I guess I'm a sad shark at heart. I got that name somewhere. Can't remember. Anyway, we only had a mother and her son in the hotel, but we got a new tenant who happened to be a little famous. She was some psychic or something. I think she just wrote some books. My coworker, Hottie, had told me that morning that she had actually started hearing things the night before, started having experiences. I sort of played it off like it was nothing. I told her we had that new tenant. I knew she loved whatever her name was. She had been trying to do some of the same work. So she went up like any other fangirl and talked with her. She came back later looking a little sad. I figured it didn't go well. So a few days go by and every night my coworker keeps telling me about more and more. Then she tells me she went back to speak with that lady and that the lady actually had some kind of reaction when they tried sensing some presences or whatever. Honestly, I was getting a little interested. I really couldn't believe all of this bullshit. So I decided to be a brave shark and look around with my coworker next time. She'd seemed freaked out more than once by now. I went exploring the hotel with her and I could help but actually believe what I saw. But then I sort of just tried to convince myself otherwise. It wasn't strong enough evidence. Just some noises and random figures. I thought I was playing tricks on myself. Nevertheless, I really didn't feel like continuing this stuff and I was getting frustrated because she wasn't even noticing that I was partially doing this for her. So now we get our final tenant. We're about to close the whole place down like in a day or two. The man was pretty old and had sort of a creep factor, but it seemed nice enough. He was kind of an asshat though. He wanted really badly to stay in a specific room. I guess it was like he and his wife's honeymoon room or something like that. My coworker, though, went and treated him with special attention. I was really getting frustrated with her, so he got to stay in the room for the night. That night, my coworker and her now new best friend go and start looking for shit. I figure I might give it one more chance. Maybe I'll impress her. Basically what happened is, I saw a lot of activity that night. Things got violent and I got freaked out by some kid I saw playing the piano. Mind you, the mother and son had left the other day because of my coworker, so there were no kids anywhere. Except the see-through one right fucking there. So I got scared and nope.jpg all over the place. I went back to our shithole lobby and went upstairs. My coworker was not happy about it. I didn't give a fuck at that moment and I left. I came back later though. I had a bad feeling. I was pretty much right though. She was freaking the fuck out and eventually went back into the second floor. I saw more shit then. I'm not really willing to say what. But the worst shit happened. I'm really not sure how it happened, but my coworker seemed to have gone crazy and locked herself in a small room. She died in there. I can't say if it was hero or not, but we also found that old man upstairs dead. He slit his wrists open and let them fill the tub. The only other person that was there was the psychic lady. She seemed pretty fucked up from the ordeal, though. The cops came and took care of everything. I'm not sure what the psychic lady ended up doing. I figure she played it off as some paranormal activity thing and sold 1 million copies. Anyway, I'm never going to work in a fucking hotel again, and that's my story.
Fuck you for ruining the plot for the innkeepers. I worked night audit at this semi-swanky hotel next to the airport. One night I get a call from a lady in 204. She says there was arguing, loud banging, and crying coming out of 206. Check the computer. No one has checked into that room due to maintenance issues. WTF? Called my supervisor to see what to do. She tells me to call on site security and follow them up with a key. But I decide to be the bigger man and go up anyways. As we get off the elevator, we can hear the crying. It's loud. My heart starts racing as we near the door, so I hand the key to the security guard. The next 5 minutes seem to happen in slow motion. He opens the door and immediately flicks on the light. Keep in mind, 206 were on the second floor. Only door in was by me, and this was at like 3 a.m. and there was no one around. As we enter the room, the shower is on. Steam is coming from under the door. There's only one lamp on in the room, it's super cold, and there's a lady curled up in the corner of the room. She was facing away from us. As Frank approached her, he asked if everything was okay. She sort of stopped crying and rolled over. When she did, a wave of horror came over me. She was super pale, covered in blood, and was just staring behind us. That's when we realized the shower had stopped and the door was open. There was a man about 6'5" standing in the doorway. As we turned around, cops tased him and arrested him. Turns out he was a Christian who hides in hotel rooms, kidnaps women who stay there and cuts them open. To this day, I will never go to a hotel again.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more Greentext will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.